And well, it's part of the stories that we have in The Nation, and it's on page 8 of The Nation, where Munya returns to Team Uhuru. And well, it says here the National Super Alliance suffered yet another setback after one of their recent catch. Former Meru Governor Peter Munya made an about turn back to Jubilee.
Jubilee, right. That's also making headlines on page 26 of the Standard. Munya ditches Raila after a week of flirting. Interesting to see how different these headlines are and the kind of language that is being used here. But again, in his exclusive interview with KTN News last night, I remember Raila Odinga said something rather interesting, you know, to the tune that Isaac Munya did speak to them before and he had no option, because there was a lot of pressure from the Jubilee side. And it raises a lot of questions as to the resolve of Munya as a person, you know, as a leader in his person. Does he not have the ability to resist that pressure and take his own stand?
Or just make a decision. I mean, a week is a very short time to have changed sides and come back.
I think we are seeing a trend here whereby leaders from Jubilee-dominated areas turn to NASA because of the frustrations, or maybe they're disappointed with the election's outcome.
Right.
Then they get the support, their people rally them, then they decide now to go back to Jubilee. Because just over the weekend, we saw also Isaac Ruto, who was a co-principal of NASA, join Jubilee at Kapkatet. And now yesterday we saw Munya do the same at State House. Even though we've not had so much from Munya to just tell us what informed the decision, but we are seeing a trend whereby we cannot get leaders from a political zoned area, either for the government or the opposition. Yes.
And the question then would be to the electorate, or rather the question the electorate would be asking is, what do they take the electorate for? Because one day here you are saying that NASA, for instance, if we take Munya, he said that, you know, he's disappointed with Jubilee and he's changing camp to NASA. And one would imagine you have principles and reasons as to why you're changing. Now, for you to get there and within less than 7 days make an about turn, then one wonders, are you really interested in the electorate's interest, or is it personal gain?
Right, and remember he was meant to petition, you know, his loss in the Meru gubernatorial seat, and that is why he crossed over to NASA, first of all, saying they have a lot of evidence that will aid him in his petition. But then again, we see a massive about turn. On social media yesterday, a lot of pictures going around, you know, Peter Munya being billed as the beautiful woman, and Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta trying to woo him with flowers. And he's like, oh, guys, stop it. But clearly, one of them had the better flowers that he liked. What does this mean, you know, really, with the resolve of our leaders, Isaac Ruto, Peter Munya?
I think what we are seeing here is whereby our leaders make their own decisions based on their own selfish interest. Because you could see even when Isaac Ruto decided to go back to Jubilee, where he said it was his home, he was talking about finding myself alone, joining NASA, without my people.
Right.
And he was arguing that based on the election outcome of last month, he found that he was alone. But you've seen hue and cry from members who said this party was actually formed to push for mashinani development. So now when you decide to go back to another party without consulting us, then it means that you're not our leader. And we have seen the same with Munya. And if you look at Isaac and Munya, they're almost playing the same political game. You've seen the former chairs of Council of Governors, and they've been very assertive in what they want, and both of them lost their seats. And during the time they were in office, they were having a running battle with the government. So we can also see that maybe they're actually held based on maybe how they handle the administrations.
Absolutely. And I guess the other lesson for Kenyans here is the fact that if politicians are very quick to make amends and get enemies and make amends, why do we as Kenyans fight one another based on, you know, some of the things that they put before our table?
Right, but even as campaigns continue, because you've seen a lot of realignments in the past 2 weeks or so with Ukambani leaders, and many of these realignments, interesting enough, are coming from areas which should be billed as NASA strongholds. Would this affect the final vote when we finally go to this re-election?
I think that will be too fast to call because what we are seeing are leaders who are disgruntled. We see leaders who lost in NASA actually crossing over to Jubilee, and those who lost in Jubilee actually crossing over to NASA. So if you ask me, I don't think it is from the point of the electorate, because if the electorate gave you your vote in that particular party you are in, you can't tell me, they will tell you tomorrow, because you lost, decamp to another party. So I think this tells us that the political parties we have, as much as we talk about ideologies and principles that they stand for, they're actually vehicles to get political seats, to the extent that if I don't get it, then I decamp to another and make myself relevant.
Special purpose vehicles, they call them.